You are now listening to a member of the Disney Podcast family. Head over to Disney Podcast Family on Instagram to see all the latest posts for this show and links to other great Disney podcasts.
There was an idea. The idea was to bring together a group of remarkable people, see if they could become something more.
I have an army. We have a Hulk.
This is the Marvel Tribe, brought to you by Walt's Apartment Podcast and the DisInsider.
Avengers!
Assemble.
All right.
How's it going?
What's up? What's up? The Marvel Tribe, we are back. So,
Yes.
we are back for this very ceremonious occasion because we have new Marvel content that it has just came out this week, which is Loki Season 2. And man, me and Lou-Knight, we definitely got some things to talk about this episode. Just want to say we're going to be putting these out week by week, and you can follow us throughout this whole season of Loki. And man, I don't know about you, Lou. I think I know about you. We both have some interesting takes on this first episode.
Yes, absolutely. This first, it's funny because it didn't feel like a first episode. I mean, obviously the way it picked up, it really felt like we've been in this, which we have story-wise, but I really found myself not on one side of any particular opinion, which is usually odd for me. Usually I either come in really heavily negative or very skeptical on the positive, but I'm really torn. I don't know if I like this episode. I don't know if I hate this episode. I don't know if it was not enough, if it was too much. Like, it was really, well, I wanted more, which is a good thing for the episode, but we'll talk about it too. The ending I didn't finish the episode wanting more, but the entire episode, I wanted more of that, but I wasn't really intrigued on to go back and see what's next. But the episode itself was really fun, really interesting. And I think for Loki, they kind of threw some stuff in there with, I keep calling him Data. I know his name's not Data in the show, but I keep calling him Data. They threw something interesting with that character.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he plays Fat Round and Data in the Goonies, Indiana Jones. And he recently won an Emmy for Everything All at Once, I believe the movie was.
Everything All at Once, I think it's called, yeah.
Yeah. The dude's an amazing actor, and I'm so glad they have him in this. He basically, his character, he's like the Mr. Fix-It maintenance of the TVA, and he's in the basement. And he does from fixing temporal temp pads to sorting, creating, we call those instruction manuals for how everything works. Everything. I mean, this guy's been around since the beginning, and it also seems like he might be the only character in a TVA that didn't get their mind wiped ever. Plus, you're lonely, so why, in the basement, and no one comes down there ever to see you, really. So why would that even matter?
And I really like that aspect too. That he was the only character that can. So, for instance, when Loki was time slipping,
Mm-hmm.
he was the only character that could be talked to, and then pick it up, almost like Marty McFly with the almanac. He's the only one that would remember. Wait a minute, I've heard this, I've seen this, and I was really thankful that they didn't do it they didn't make it seem like anybody else had that power, because then it would have been an interesting. It would have been the time travel challenge that most movies run into. Well, if they can do this, why couldn't so-and-so do that? And I like that so far in this episode or in the series, all we see is that he's the only one that you can communicate on different time loops or time slips and be able to say, hey, that was in the future, that was in the past. Because we saw it with, is it CJ? The
Casey.
off tech guy.
Casey.
Yeah, Casey.
Yeah,
You
Casey.
saw with him, and he's like, I don't know who you are, I know who you are. And everybody else the same way. So that was really interesting for me. I like where they're going with that character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he could be a fun character to have, kind of like the Grandmaster in Thor Ragnarok, where they're in this little bubble of the MCU and you can kind of tap in whenever you need them, but they can tap in wherever because you don't have a whole lot of lanes going to and from for them. So therefore, they can become a fun little card in the deck for Marvel.
Yeah. So I have to. So let me, before we kind of break into this episode, like we're not going to do frame by frame, but I want to kind of clarify some things because I know there's going to be some confused people, and I'm mainly talking about our main man Sean, who tries to get into the show, and he does get confused about a few of the reference points of, like you mentioned, time slipping. So let me explain what that actually is, because there is actually two frames of reference throughout the MCU. So there's time slipping, and then there's like lateral time hopping. And I'm going to explain and break down the difference. So time slipping means you are actually staying on the same timeline, but you're traveling back and forth on that timeline. So you're going from the past to the forward to at some point within that, on that same timeline. Now, lateral time hopping is, for some of you guys who've seen Doctor Strange, perfect case of an example. There, lateral time hopping, you're going through multiversal traveling. You're going on different timelines. So when Wanda was dream walking, she was doing that through a multiverse, multiple different timelines. Same with Doctor Strange when they were chasing Chavez character and stuff. They were doing lateral time hopping through different timelines and stuff. Loki stays on the same timeline. Now, here's the significance to this, because this changes kind of how the TVA is set up in the comics. The TVA technically exists outside of time. So that kind of thing should never actually happen within the TVA. But we also find out at the end of season 1 that the TVA is a lie anyway. It's a conjuring of King, the Conqueror, so he can control and build his sacred timeline and everything else and stuff. Whether it's good or bad or indifference, you can make up your mind. But when they said the rules are different here, technically they're not, and TVA doesn't really exist outside the timeline, and we proved that because one, Loki was able. I'll talk about more of the proof and stuff, because we see it unfold and stuff, like when the little things that he does when he time slips to remind himself or let someone else knows of what's going on and stuff. But I love the way they're doing this, because there's like they're mashing of a lot of different worlds. Like there's that, you have the butterfly effect, like one thing that you do creates another thing. And then they have I'm not sure if you've seen, is that Dennis Quaid movie where his he travels back in time and he's radioing, talking to his son on the radio, and he like plants evidence, and then the guy goes in the backyard and digs it up. Like it's like instantaneous. I mean, they're referencing some really quantum like time paradoxes and theories and all kinds of stuff within this one episode. I think they're doing it to set up a bigger stage. So when it left me definitely wanting more, but that's my quick little breakdown to time slipping and lateral time hopping and stuff within the MCU.
And it's really cool because obviously everyone has heard me. I'm a broken record. I'm not a fan of these short time shows. This one on actual footage of actual screenplay, I think came out to about 39 minutes if you don't count the end credit scene. And it was enjoyable. And surprisingly, they really gave for the most part, a solid explanation without explaining like you did, but a solid explanation of understanding him. And I felt when I walked away from that show, I was like, I understood that. Because Endgame, the 3 hours and 13-minute movie, it was all about time jumping or multiverse travel and all that stuff. And I walked out of there and I was like, wait, how did any of that work? Like in 3 hours, I found myself confused, but they were able to nail it down in about 39 minutes. Now, obviously, we're already acclimated to seeing time jumps, time changes, all that stuff. So we're used to that now. But in this episode, they really laid down a lot in a very short period of time. And I'm still upset that it was only 39 minutes, but I felt like this one might be that one that I just looked the other way on because it did enough. Now, as we go into what happened, this one did enough for me wanting more of what I got, but I did not find myself wanting more to see what's coming. And to break that down, there's episodes that we watched that I love. Like there is the opening episode of Moon Knight. Love it. I could watch that one back to back to back. I loved it. There are certain episodes of the season that I was like, okay. But the ending on that one, I wanted more because you didn't get Moon Knight until the very end of that episode. This one, there was nothing at the end of the episode that really was like, what's going to happen next? I want to know more about this time slipping, yes, but nothing said, hey, what's going to happen next? And that part left me a bit confused. There wasn't a episode cliffhanger where it was like, wait, what's happening? It was just more of, okay, we're going to get another episode, but what we got was pretty cool. And so that surprised me because Loki season 1, each episode, except for the one that had like the 500 Lokis, that one checked me out a little bit. But every episode at the end of each Loki in season 1, I was like, dude, I can't wait to see what's coming next. This one didn't have that. But overall, in a weird paradox, it was a really great episode.
Okay. Well, I respectfully disagree. I think it did have it. I'm ready for this roller coaster ride. I think this was just kind of priming us up and really saying we're about to get science-y and about to get sci-fi and about to get weird on this season of Loki and stuff. I love the layered stuff. So like, when there's that false wall that when Loki prunes the wall, behind it is Kang and stuff. It's like there's so much mysteries that are kind of just within this episode, and like with it, I know they're all for a purpose, which I'm excited to see what that purpose is. What else is going to be revealed and stuff. I mean, let's kind of get into this a little bit because I want to talk about. So as always with the opening title card, the big Marvel, they added a few new people, to that, so we got Kamala Khan, we got Shuri's Black Panther, we got He Who Remains, we got Moon Knight. So these are all newer characters that are being added to the new Marvel opening, which I love the fact that they do that. They kind of like, hey, these are the ones to be paying attention to. These are, expanding into the universe. It's just a small flashpoint of a nod. They even added Miss Minutes. I don't know if I added that and stuff, which we didn't get to see, which, I believe we did get to hear her voice. I think Casey was listening to some kind of motivational tape it sounded like that was Miss Minutes on the motivational tape, but you never really know. But yeah, so it opens up that Loki is like running away from Mobius and the Hunters, and it's like, okay, so it kind of picks up right after the end of season 1, where Loki runs into Mobius, like, hey, greets him, like, hey, well, and Mobius have no clue who he is. So this was the start of what that time slipping piece is, because this actually showed he went back into the past before Mobius and B-15 knew who Loki was. Loki wasn't on their mission dossier or any of that stuff. So he's running for his life, kind of sad. You can kind of see it on his face, like, my best friend, my bromance is chasing me. He doesn't know who I am and stuff. So he escapes and he does the whole, jumps off of the side of the building and stuff, and lands in was it a mail car or some kind of taxi or something that was.
It looks like it's some type of delivery car.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. It crashes into at first it crashes into Kang the Conqueror's statue and chips away at that. I'm sure there's a reference for that, like maybe he's not as undefeatable as we all think. And then he goes into he crashes into the window, and that's where we see Casey, our main man from episode 1, the comic relief, I like to think, and stuff. He's just that kind of guy. And, he's kind of relieved to see Casey. The taxi or the delivery truck kind of is like teetering, and then it falls over, and you hear a crash. You don't see it really crash or anything. And Loki is like, oh, yeah, that person will be okay. Turns to Casey. The TV falls, it short circuits it from the crashing, and it chips the floor. Which is amazingly important. It doesn't seem like it at the time, but it chips that floor where there's a picture of a sword going through the TVA and stuff like that. Casey takes off his headphones because he's a janitor, which also indicates, because the Casey we saw in season 1, he was a desk clerk guy. Like he got promoted. Like he was, shuffling papers and stuff. So this Casey, you have to work your way up to the ranks. So he's a janitor and stuff. So he's mopping the floor or buffering the floor or whatever he's doing. Listen to his motivational Miss Minutes, stereo and stuff. And then Loki approaches him, trying like, hey, do you remember me? Blah blah blah. Casey freaks out and reports him immediately and stuff. So, and again, evidence that he's, in my opinion, he time jumped into the past when he got kicked through that door by Sylvie at the end. That's where he ended up. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. And then he time slips and he goes back into, I don't want to say the future or the present, because he looks down and he sees the floor still shattered. And he runs into Casey, and Casey knows who he is, right? That's kind of, so he's fast forward into the timeline where Casey remembers him. So that's where he goes on his mission to go and find Mobius and B-15 and stuff. So you want to add anything to?
Yeah, that whole opening segment really got me. I was hooked. Like I was really, there was some minor things that I was not a fan of. I thought the visual of the jumping in the mail cart and all that, it took me out of the moment. But that opening scene really sets you up because they did it so seamlessly. It was like John Wick, where you pick up right where they left off. It wasn't, hey, 4 months later, 6 months later. No, it was maybe, and not to be no pun intended, but a few minutes later. Like it was very like, what is going on? At one point, I found myself like he time slipped so quick and so frequently that I was like, can we just get somewhere? And they started slowing it down about halfway through the show. But that opening segment, it really painted a metaphor of, or not a metaphor, but I think it's foreshadowing a lot. I think, like you said, that Kang is indestructible, can be defeated. That Cheek, I think we're gonna see something like that. Maybe an injury that he gets there somewhere in the show. I think that opening scene had a lot of foreshadowing of what is to come, and it was really well done. I really liked it.
I thought the pacing was kind of, it reminded me of Fifth Element and stuff. The taxi chase scene where with what's her name, Lilu, or that's not her name, but
Mila
and Bruce Willis and stuff like that. That it was just all fast paced, just shot. So, and you're right, it didn't start slowing down to the middle of it and stuff because it just kind of kept building all the way up to that. And so then, it takes us back to that room, that space where B-15 and Mobius is talking. and one of the hunters is, telling them, hey, the general and the judges are requesting your presence, but not before he starts talking crap about the jet ski, which I hate it or love it. I know we all wanted to see Mobius on the jet ski, or at least a reference of the jet ski somewhere. We got the reference, and it was just the hunter guy just talking crap about how stupid the jet ski thing is and everything else. And then Mobius giving them a little fun fact about how jet ski is a brand name. It's, it's not, it's like Velcro or any, it's not actually, those little wave runners and stuff like that. It's a brand, but everyone calls it a jet ski.
I think, though, not to cut you off, I think Mobius will see a jet ski in this season, because if you look at the trailers, they do a lot of different world type of costumes, and I could just see some oh my god,
80s,
like he's on a jet ski, he's doing it. I might even say we might see something like that in a season finale, where like it started with the joke and by the end he got it. I'm not 100% sold on that, but I don't think we've seen the end of the jet ski rolling pun.
Yep. Oh, I agree with you. I 100% agree. So I have, and before we get too far in it, I have a theory I kind of want to just kind of throw out there, because it hit me within the first 10 minutes of the show and stuff. So, and it actually sparks back from the season finale. So when Loki gets kicked through the time door by Sylvie, and he goes and he runs and he's looking for Mobius. He finds Mobius and talking to B-15, and they're looking at the timeline and all the branches off the timeline. He says, there's 63 branches and stuff, all critical condition and stuff. And he had that conversation with Loki, and he doesn't know Loki. That was the past, because it picks up from the past. Like he's in the earlier version of the TVA that has not encountered Loki yet. Why is there so many branches of the timeline already going out of whack? Here's my theory. This is a repeating event. Timeline, this is circle. This probably happened already. So whether it's like 400 years ago, or whatever, how long ago in the past he actually traveled and ran into B-15 and Mobius talking about it, that's from a different event, because that is not currently the present and stuff of Loki's presence and stuff. So that's a whole other, there was something that happened that caused that timeline to branch. And so I'm assuming that got taken care of or fixed or whatever, and it recycled. That's why everyone got their memory wiped. People got new positions, all kinds of stuff changed and stuff. So my theory is that this event that Loki and Sylvie created with the branching timelines and everything else happened before, but maybe in a different way. And that's what we were seeing at the end of season 1.
I agree with that about 95%.
Sure.
Because the way this episode ended, and I will get down there, but there's that part where Sylvie says, and now this rumor is not original. Like I read this somewhere else, but that ending scene where Sylvie's like, "Oh, there you are," and then Loki gets pruned. There is theories that is Loki pruning himself for the Loki in that scenario. That there are actually 2 Lokis in that scene, because we don't see him prune himself, and obviously Sylvie's not pruning him. He gets pruned from the back. So there are theories going on the internet that the Loki that is roaming with Sylvie in that scene was a few minutes behind or something like that, sees the Loki that we are growing and following with, prunes him, because obviously Loki is the god of mischief, and is like, wait a minute, I'm here, you're not me. Prunes him. So there is that I'm curious, but also in the war room. In the war room is the part that really got me intrigued, but left me wondering so much, because we are in the war room that is led to believe that this is the war room of the same time moment that the Loki season 1 took place. But in that war room, we have a couple of key things. One, Loki prunes the wall to show that he who remains has been there all along.
Mm-hmm.
At least we're led to believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Two, the war general chief mentioned Sylvie. She also has her own, is it B-15? Kind of, but he's X5.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. That's a weird relationship that it remains to be unveiled. They're like sitting there huddling, and she's like caressing, and they're like head to head, and that. Yeah, she has her own little puppy dog. That's very weird.
And I'm curious, like you just said, though, this has happened before. I wonder if the judge that was in the season 1, Mobius and B-15, Renslayer, those were the trio there. Now we have the general, which I would put on the same level as Renslayer. She has her own soldier that may have his own military group. So we are missing the Mobius in her plug. But they mentioned Sylvie, which nobody apparently knew Sylvie as Sylvie, because Mobius says in season 1, we're chasing you. It's a Loki. Kept calling Sylvie, because nobody knew Sylvie's name, Loki. So the general obviously knows of Sylvie. It may be Sylvie. That seems like something she's up to. So that's why I'm about 95% sure what your theory is almost accurate. But the only reason why I feel that there's that small inkling that they don't do that theory is false, has nothing to do with story or reasoning. But behind logistics of just the studio and storytelling, I could see them, if they went down that route, you're just chasing your own tail, and how do you get out of that vortex? So that's why I'm a little optimistic on it. But when it comes to just the story development and the characters and the timeline, I am 95% in, because there are 2 key moments in this episode that could definitely lead you to believe that this has been done before, and how do we break off this loop?
So in the war room, they're in the present timeline. So they would know all the events that has happened and stuff, because Mobius, and we only know that for two reasons. One, the shattered TVA floor, and him talking, and Loki talking to Casey, and Casey remembering Loki and telling Loki where he can find Mobius and B-15. They find each other, and they're like, oh, okay, you do remember me. So we're in the present timeline of the new branching timelines and everything else. When they're about to go into the war room. So they're in the war room, and this is where B-15 is really kind of trying to, hey, everything we've been told is a lie. This is, and they talked about Sylvie, like, getting in your head and everything, like this was all fake. We're variants and everything else. So they are aware of Sylvie. There's a tape recorder, even more of Loki talking and explaining what the variant thing and stuff like that. So they were listening to that before Mobius and B-15 even got into that room and stuff. Now they were also listening to a tape recording of what appears to be Kane the Conqueror having a conversation with a Judge Renslayer. When he says forever and for always, like, us, conquering. So I'm glad, you're a marvel. Glad you served by my side. And Loki rewind that, and he was talking to Renslayer. So that's, there's that. So they're in the current present right now. They're trying to fix whatever the hell this piece is. But so when he prunes the wall, it kind of reminds me of that Thor Ragnarok pivotal scene where Hela was talking about like how Odin just covered up all the real shit.
Yes.
And she hit the ceiling and all of that. I'm like, first I was like, why do you guys do that? Why not just destroy the wall and build a new one? But apparently, in the MCU, they like to just cover shit up. So Odin did it, and Kang did it here. So he pruned the wall and it revealed the king, the conqueror's faces and stuff underneath there and all that. So yeah, that was, dude, there's so much like little nuances and stuff that kind of comes into play here, including him. First of all, tell me, what do you think does it creep you out? It really creeps the hell. I mean, when I see Loki like time jump, like time slip, like that's the creepiest looking thing I've ever seen. Like it's they did a good job because it makes it's not like, oh hey, that's fun. It's not like Back to the Future. There's a DeLorean or anything. You're literally kind of transforming and mutating. And I agree with Mobius when he was having a conversation with Loki and the elevators. Like, dude, that's just some cringy stuff to watch you do.
It creeped me out. It really did. The one thing that I almost found unforgivable for it was the part where, like, whatever Mobius was still moving, and it just seemed to be wherever Mobius was, now they did kind of fix it towards the end. He would time jump or time slip and return or go back and forth in the same spot he left. But there were some moments there, like in the elevator, like it's almost like one of the little like visions that everyone had with Endgame. Well, if you were dust here, do you just pick up where you left off? How does that work? So there was a few scenes, but visually, I thought the time slipping was great. And I watched a video, and I would give credit where I saw it if I can remember where it's from. But there was some episodes of what shows challenges when you time slip, or being messed with. Mr. Fantastic and Doctor Strange, he kind of feathers off in that stringy like. And there was another one that they showed too where it's a time challenge and you turn it like this, like spaghetti. It gave me like Venom vibes in a way. Like I was really, it did make me uncomfortable. It made my skin crawl like the third or fourth time I saw it. I was like, okay, it's weird. It's almost like that syndrome where you have like holes and they're like, what is that? And there's too many holes. I don't know the name.
It was like tryphobia or something, trichophobia or something. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I was like, so it got to me, but it really sold it. Like you could see the like 2 or 3 different Lokis at that one moment trying to fight, either getting out or going away. They're like, and you could see the challenge. I thought it was really cringy, but really cool.
Oh yeah. And that takes us to the part of the elevator where he Mobius is taking him down to the guy who fixes everything and stuff. And that's where we get, I'm going to always call him Data. I know
Obi.
We get Obi, but I do, that's Data. That's, oh man, I'm so fanboying that when he came out and stuff, I'm like, dude, and he came down in his little chair thing and stuff as they were in his little workshop and stuff, and he kind of walks. Yeah, he will always be Data to me. So anyway, Obi comes over and talks to him and he does it in front of him and stuff. First, actually, he talked about. He's like, no, that's impossible, and then he does it in front of, like, oh my god, that's time slipping, And he kind of knew exactly what that was and stuff, and then. He kind of he really, like, his character, Obi's character, is like the underbelly of everything in the TVA. Like it almost like he built, he repairs, he wrote the instructions. Like he has a bigger role into what's going on, but he's also a nice guy. Like it kind of reminds me of like in the Matrix. There's characters that are neutral. Like the guy with all the keys to the doors and stuff like that. And, when they were chasing them, he kept opening the door to one part of the timeline in the Matrix. It kind of reminds me of Obi's character. Like he's very neutral. He's not bad. He's not good. He's just he's a logical reason for existing. He's just, he has a purpose and he lives in that purpose and stuff is the best way.
He reminded me of Vision.
Oh, okay. Yep. elaborate on the Vision thing. Like,
so he reminded me of Vision as like when Vision was Vision in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Where it was just that I am not good, I am not bad, I am doing this because this is what I'm programmed to do.
Yeah, it's a logical choice for me to do.
Correct. Before Vision became Dawson's Creek, and I love you, and don't leave me, before he became that.
Oh, no. Oh, God, man. Okay. I hear you. I'm following. So here's the part that I love that has the more science than fiction piece in it. So because they really set the rules for time slipping and stuff. So when and it makes perfect sense. So because Mobius and Obi kind of talk, and he's like, "Yeah, you're the last person I saw here like 400 years ago," and stuff. Really kind of solidifies how time kind of just isn't really a factor for the people who are there. Although there's a timeline that does exist. So the TVA, again, existing outside of time and space is a lie, but they do experience time different in the TVA because of that one line. It's like, yeah, I saw you like 400 years ago and stuff. That's, and it's like, I remember everything and everybody and everything else. Now, the cool thing about that is Mobius did not really remember that at all, which means kind of lends back to the whole season 1 when he was in Renslayer's office. And you remember the coffee cups, like she always says, hey, use a coaster, because there's all those ring circles and stuff. He's been there. He's been in the office several times, but he doesn't remember. His memory's been rebooted. It's kind of, most people there's been rebooted so many times and stuff. Like they don't remember their variant and then how long ago they've been in serving for the TVA and stuff. But again, that little interaction shows us that Obi never been rebooted. He's been there for all of time and stuff. And another piece about that, and let's just walk that theory, because if anyone wants to challenge it, I can prove it based off of what the show did. Let's say he was rebooted. It wouldn't make any sense that if anything that Loki told him in the past when he time slipped and he went to the past, he wouldn't remember any of it. He was forming a memory right then and there as it happened, in that time differential where Loki was telling him, hey, this is what's happening. And he kind of did the time slip and he saw it and he's like, oh, well, you need a temporal, what was it called? Like a temporal loom to kind of pull you out and, out of the multiple timelines and kind of put you back in place. But you need a device that can do that. And so the future or the present, Obi is like, yeah, no, that device doesn't exist. And then boom. And it shows like Loki in the past watching Obi build this device, and then he set it off. And he's like, hey, hold that. I want you to store that for yourself for later and stuff. And then he looks over like, oh, boom, there it is. Hey, I built this back in the day and stuff. So I love that nuance, that it was like there was instant memories for him, because that's exactly how that would be. It was like time changed and stuff like, and everything else. For Obi, it's just a memory. For Mobius, it's a brand new thing because he's never experienced that before and stuff. So I love how they did that. It was really, really cool. And how he explained the spaghettification, like going into a wormhole. And I'm glad he didn't really explain it, because it would like creep most people out on how that it's similar to like in Doctor Strange, what Wanda did to Reed Richards. Spaghettified him in a very painful manner. That's probably what would happen and stuff. So there's that. Sorry, I'm just going off on a tangent on that scene.
No, it's real quick though. I like that scene. It gave me a very cool callback to Back to the Future episode 3.
Okay.
When Doc Brown literally just accidentally zips off to 1883. Mm-hmm. Minutes later, the Postal Service shows up. Are you Marty McFly? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I've had this in my office. It's dated from 1883, and it said to give it to you at this exact spot on this exact day at this exact time. And he's like, what? And he reads it, and it's Doc Brown, dated 1883, and that's what it reminded me of. But as we're talking about this, and I've watched the episode twice, so the variants have been pulled from different parts of the timeline. We're starting to learn that. We have yet to see Mobius in the MCU, the Mobius wherever he may be in that time. Yeah. Based on his look, his references, being excited about jet skis, I'm thinking he's somewhere around Captain America's time frame, the first Avenger, if we're going on timeline. So he's probably somewhere around 80s, late 70s. So so I am curious, and I'll throw this out to you. Do we think their mind has been wiped? Or do we think that they are a variant of a variant?
I think their mind has been wiped. I'm not seeing evidence of like multiple variants and stuff. It's plus it's easier to do, in my opinion, like King the Conqueror and all the technology and stuff. It's just the kind of men in black people versus travel into the timeline, into the real world, and grab the exact same variants from a different piece and bring them in to the TVA. It's just easier to create a machine that's like, the little flashy thing, look here, and just wipe, all previous things and just hit the reset button. I mean, he likes to go over. It's proven, King the Conqueror likes to kind of put a facade over, build on top of old things anyway and stuff. So it seems like it's harder work to go grab another variant than it would be just to wipe someone's mind, just to kind of put a little blanket over whatever happened. You're trying to make them forget.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that. I was thinking like a variant. Can you pull, like how Mobius is in this timeline? The timeline that Loki knows, that little time moment that we're working. Can you pull a variant from a variant that's already in the TVA? And I say that because I think of Scooby-Doo, the first movie, where Mr. Bean, I don't know his name in the movie, Mr. Bean is being portrayed as himself, but his real person is in some like locker cave stuff like that. Kind of like what Secret Invasions just did, where the Skrulls are taking over their human forms, but their birth human bodies are in some cocoon type of thing, where maybe all of this is happening, and I might be going too far down the path of never returning.
I'm following you.
I'm just curious, like maybe there's another Mobius wandering in this, and it's time because the timelines. What if there's another Mobius that is time jumping or time slipping and really did talk to Obi? Maybe his brain wasn't wiped, but the Mobius that was working slipped somewhere and they just kind of got shuffled. Completely way off topic of it. But I'm just curious because that would really, really throw a wrench in the things crazy, because now you're like, dude, which Loki is which Loki, which Mobius is which Mobius. And I think that could take the Loki show, because I'm really curious, where does this go? Because obviously this Loki can't jump back into the current MCU because they've already wiped that away. Do we get two Lokis in the MCU?
No, they didn't wipe away the current MCU. They prune the Nexus event that Loki did the Nexus of what they wiped away was everything that happened after Loki stole the Tesseract. That wasn't supposed to happen. By doing that, he created a new branch. They pruned that new branch. The main MCU timeline was still going on. All that stuff still happened and stuff. Like Loki got imprisoned, by Thor, all that stuff. The only thing was that one little slip up when the Avengers time traveled, slipped up. Loki got the Tesseract and he created a new reality basically. So that version, whatever that was going to lead to, that didn't exist because we don't even know how that. So they purged that. But I hear what you're saying. I think if they go down that route, that's way too meta and too complex. They have to explain. I mean, you're opening up all kinds of different rabbit holes that will screw. In my opinion, you're creating a situation that's going to ask a lot more questions as to why this isn't happening. If this can happen, if multiple variants can I mean, it's adding way too much complication to the MCU. I understand what you're saying, and I follow exactly where you're tracking, but I think if they were to go that route, they would have already kind of dropped a little bit more clues because they like you said, foreshadowing with the King, the Conqueror, and the Cheek, and I think they would have dropped some really obvious foreshadowing clues of that. That's why I don't think it's Loki that's pruned himself and stuff when the whole Sylvie and him and the elevator exchange. I can guess. I mean, my theory is it probably was Mobius because Mobius understood the interaction that needed to happen. And in order for Mobius to save its own life, because, there's no way he was going to make it. I mean, that part of that, after the exchange with Obi, and Obi gave Mobius the instructions, they put him in that suit and they explained how the timelines kind of thread through that needle. And at that right moment, when the thing turns green, he has to purge himself and it'll pull him out of time and space. But to do that, you have to kind of place the temporal loom inside of that magnetic thing and stuff. But you're risking all that radiation exposure energy. And you have 5 minutes to do it. I'm closing the doors, basically the blast doors. Mobius, in my opinion, Mobius knew that he had no choice but to wait and have to do it. Like it was a gamble on his end. It's kind of like that Back to the Future moment and stuff that his future self is going to prune. Like if Loki doesn't get the job done, he's going to be the one to do it. So it'll save his life as well as Loki's life, which, Loki came blazing back through and grabbed him and they went through the door and stuff like that. Again, that's speculation. No one really knows who actually pruned him in that future time setting and stuff. All we know is that was the first time we saw Sylvie and in the elevator and some weird stuff was going on and stuff. I love the phone ringing, kind of like the Matrix with Neo and Mr. Anderson walks into the apartment and then boom, 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 takes some to the chest. Mr. Anderson thinks that he got the best of Neo because he killed them. Just like whoever pruned Neo may have thought Loki may have thought they may have killed him, but they ended up transforming Loki into what he's supposed to be. I don't know. There's so many wild different things. It feels like that meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when Charlie just like on the board and all the strings and stuff are connecting. So I'm not sure, but I like your theory. Could be right. I don't think it is, but we never know. We're only in episode 1 for this.
Yeah. The only thing I think I know I had a bunch of theories that I was riding on in Secret Invasions. I think the only one that really, for me, I like your theory with the oh my gosh, the one you were just sharing a minute ago.
Mobius.
I like that. I like the theory, but I think the one that I that's in the future, I think makes sense. I really think that's Loki pruning himself. I really do.
Okay.
Because the way Sylvie says, but I don't know for sure. That's the only one I could stick to so far. Mm-hmm. But everything else that you shared so far makes a lot more sense than mine. I think I went down the path of no return way too fast and way too hard.
No. I totally get it. And it could be, and you could be right. So let me add a little context on how you could be right about Loki purging himself. When Avengers went back to go capture all of the time stones, Captain America had to meet his former self. Brief as it was, he actually had to fight himself. So because they're on the same timeline, it is in the realm of possibility that the Loki, so hear me out, the Loki who got pruned, and this is going to be circular, went back, obviously got sucked through the the time loom, the temporal loom, and capture, saved Mobius and as they came through the blast doors, right? That Loki now that did that came and saved Mobius can't time shift anymore, right? So the fact that the other Loki, the one before that saving, can time shift into the future and the past, the present on that same timeline, could have time shifted into the future and met the Loki that can't time shift anymore. That Loki is living in the actual real future, living in the real present. So that present timeline is going to catch up to some point to the time shift Loki. And he realized he may be the one that has to prune himself. So he does. Probably scares the crap out of Sylvie. Sylvie's like, wait, what the hell is that? Sylvie probably doesn't even know about the time shift stuff. And so all she did was just see how Loki prune himself, and he's like, wait, what? And he's like, oh, no worries. That needed to happen. And then they go about doing whatever they're trying to do, save the timeline or find the whatever the mission that they're currently working on. So for me, that I can see that actually happening and unfolding. So that would be credence to what you said, that Loki pruned himself. It would have been the Loki that can no longer time shift, prune the one that time shifted into his space. So,
especially with that sign where he wrote skins in dust. He wrote it in the dust. So I could see that theory works out even more. Mm-hmm. I could see Loki walk into that room, seeing that on the computer, and be like, I know where I'll be at. Running over to that door and being there just a few seconds behind the Loki that we just saw, and then pruning it, and then being his joking self. So why'd you do that? It's a long story. I'll tell you later. And kind of that thing. So that does make a lot of sense.
And what if the phone ringing? What if it was the Loki who pruned Loki calling him to get his attention, to focus on that? Because he's trying to figure out and find a pruning stick or something. So because he time shifted and he dropped it, right? So he maybe called him on that phone to focus his attention so he can get the drop on himself. And Sylvie in the elevator, and see, I don't know. I can go down some rabbit holes too.
Or I like where you're going. Or it's Mobius calling that phone, telling Loki, kind of like how season 1 ended. Mm-hmm. Do not prune yourself. This is going to get worse. Where it's like, hey, try it now that Loki feels that this is what he needs to do. Trying to call and stop him from doing it. Loki, after pruning himself, picks up the phone and says, hey, do not do it. And then, why? We needed you to be what you were doing. There was a purpose for that. And now you just blew that. And we have to fit, kind of like Sylvie not killing He Who Remains. Okay, leave him right where he's at.
I like this. Let's figure out who's on the phone, who's making the call. So I have two theories, and I'll keep these until my mind gets changed. I like yours. I'm not going to steal yours. So I think it's either Loki or it's Obi, because Obi would be, for me, more logical to use technology and stuff to try to focus and making an event happen and stuff. So I'm really leaning towards Obi after hearing what you said about Mobius. So
yeah, because right now I'm getting that Men in Black 3 vibe, where Obi is that one kid. He's like, I really don't like this part. He knows what could happen, what's going to happen, but he's so, was this past? Was this future? Is this? And obviously, if they get to that point, Obi would have journeyed through to be the future Obi and realize, oh, we shouldn't have done that. And so Yeah, I like where you're going with Obi, and I won't take that. I'm going to stick with Mobius. I can see Obi explaining to Mobius, like, hey, we shouldn't do that. Well, we need to stop him. And hopping on the phone, trying to stop him, and going from there. Because ultimately, we don't know why Loki that we know and follow today was running to that specific spot. It was just a door shaking, power outage. So we really don't know why the Loki we are following now was even headed in that direction. So there's a reason why that phone was ringing. But instead, the door's open, it's Sylvie, he gets pruned. So we really don't ever find out why that phone was ringing or why he stopped where he was at. It's just a doorway. So that's a very interesting pivot right there.
And I think it's setting up a pivotal moment like it did in the Matrix with the phone ring in that apartment and Neo, because that was the moment that everything changed, right? So I think that scene is the mystery behind who pruned and who made that phone call is a pivotal moment going forward into what we're about to see on this big adventure. And that we probably won't get answers to that probably on the latter half of the season and stuff. So we can put a feather in our hat. Next episode, we'll bring Sam in on it and we'll ask her opinion about that as well. And then we'll just have a 3-way gentleman's bet about and see who's going to be right. But I agree. I think it's going to be one of the people we've mentioned was a part of that. I think it's going to be one that I'll be surprised if we get surprised. But I'm all for it. So
I mean, I feel like that kind of wrapped up.
It did.
Well, except for the end credit scene, which the end credit scene, it was a good one. I feel like we're going to get more into that about like Sylvie, who she was and who she's become. Because obviously she's time slipping. From the looks of it, she's time slipping as well. Because there's a reason she's on Earth, technically. Like,
yes. Well, the TVA has access to those temporal doors. They can go in and out of the timeline as they choose. So that doesn't necessarily we saw at the end when B-15 was watching General Vox march all her soldiers through those time doors with those reset chargers, like just bags full of them and stuff. So, it could be that she has access to that tech and she's just going through doors and stuff, and she picked the error that she likes. She doesn't have, this was what Sylvie did. She hid in the timeline. She would go through doors and take technology from the TVA and just pick certain corners and avoid Nexus events so they couldn't track her and stuff. But yeah, I personally don't think she could be, but I don't think she's time slipping. I think she's using TVA tech.
See, I think she's time slipping because, and the reason I say that is because we don't have a reason why Loki's time slipping. She put the temple pad, kicked him through the doorway. He ended up at a wrong point in time of the timeline. So there's that. So I wonder if by them, kind of like Jumanji, them collaborating, killing He Who Remains, one of the glitches of doing that is like, now I don't put my power onto you, but like I curse you with this burden. And the burden that Sylvie and Loki are faced with is they're time slipping because now their code is a little jacked up. So I think she's time slipping because being the warrior that Sylvie is, why is she in a McDonald's? Spoiler, you haven't heard me, it's McDonald's. Why is she in a McDonald's? It's not a very warrior. And she has this almost like, I don't know what's happening, so I am just enjoying life as it is. And so for me, I think she's time slipping, but she may not be time slipping as bad as Loki, where it's like, where he's getting going. He was going in and out for like minutes at a time. She may be time slipping less than he does, but I think because again, there's no real rhyme or reason why he's doing this. She did everything, kicking him through the temporal door, very much like they did the whole season. So there's no reason why he would be glitching, for lack of a better words.
Well, think about it this way too. Like there was only literally 3 people at the end of time, right? Loki, Sylvie, and He Who Remains. No one else in the entire universe made it that far. So you could be right. There could be some, by her killing him and, and the fact that they made it to that point in time where, He Who Remains can't even see the future anymore. Like that loop or whatever kind of broke or whatever. They both, you're right. She could be experiencing some time slippage because of the fact that they made it to the end. It's like, it's a penalty. It's a side effect of time or whatever. The fact that you were able to pierce through time and get past, not Aladdin, the monster that was, you made it to He Who Remains doorstep and Miss Minutes. So 4. So those 4, and one of them's dead, which is He Who Remains. We don't know where Miss Minutes is, and there's Loki and Sylvie. So it's safe to say your theory is rooted in it's not a far-fetched theory that she's time slipping too.
I wonder if Miss Minutes, can she play with time like that and just mess around with them?
Her existence is very
like a voodoo doll almost. She's just sitting there like she's just like a DJ, like go back, go forth. But then again, they're traveling to pretty pivotal moments in this timeline. So I don't see that, but that'd be a very interesting plot if Miss Minutes is just like, you can go there, you can go here. I think I'm more excited about episode 2 than I was before us talking about it. Because, again, it didn't finish off where I was like, dude, I can't wait for episode 2. Naturally, I am excited for episode 2. I want to see it. But there's nothing saying, dude, this needs to come out tomorrow. I'm ready. And after talking and breaking this down, I retract that statement, and I think I am more ready for episode 2 than I thought I would be.
All right. Well, I'm excited how do I say it? I'm excited for episode 2, but I'm excited for Marvel Tribes recap because we're going to get a whole bunch of material that is going to tie 1 and 2. And I guarantee you, between our brains and Sam as well, we're going to come up with probably some wild stuff. So this is the kind of stuff I live for. I love the fact that it's almost like book club for Marvel movies and stuff. We really get to kind of look at different perspectives of things and really throw our stuff up and see how it lands and how it comes across and stuff like that. So I'm walking away with some news information that you provided. I'm going to go back and rewatch because I've only seen episode 1 once. I'm going to rewatch it, and I'm going to keep in mind what you said on this episode. For you guys out there who's listening to the Marvel Tribe, y'all do the same. Listen to this episode. Well, first of all, you shouldn't be listening to this episode if you haven't seen episode 1 yet. We probably should have put spoiler, but hey, you're all grown-ups or, whatever. You can be responsible for your own stuff. Go rewatch episode 1, and you guys, contact us. Let us know, like, what do you think? Do you think our theories hold? Do you think in the same way, or you guys have something new you want to add? And hey, if you reach out to us, we may have a discussion and talk about it in the next episode. What do you think about that, Lou?
I'm down. And speaking of the next episode, any predictions going into episode 2?
Yes. All right. So I predict we're going to get clarity as to what General Vox and the Hunters are doing. That's probably not a far-fetched one. I predict we're going to probably see Renslayer, and I think we need to be for it. I think she plays a big pivotal role in all of this and stuff. So I think we see her as she's and it uncovers that mission. Like she took some files and she went through that door, and we never saw her again in season 1. I think we're going to get that reveal of what mission she's doing and what she's on. And I think we see evidence either proving your theory about Sylvie time slipping or proving our Sylvie using TVA technology to pick a timeline to go hide out in because she's like fed up with stuff. So I think that we're going to see next episode. And what I want to see, I mean, like always, I want to see Mobius on the jet ski. But, you know, we may not get that in the next episode here. What about you?
I think we are going to get a similar episode to episode 1, kind of the movie Vantage Point, but through the eyes of Sylvie. I think we're going to get a lot more following Sylvie what happened after the events of season 1.
You think it's going to show picking up after her stabbing He Who Remains?
Like, yeah, and it's going to show what she went through and finish the episode off when she opens the doors, bringing her, because we obviously got to see what happened to her.
Yeah.
Like, and I see the second episode being about her, still having Mobius and Loki. You can't have those two, but I see us seeing a lot more of Sylvie's journey after He Who Remains, because she's watching this, stuff like that, because it picks up right after that. Mm-hmm. So, and we finish off with her at McDonald's, but we start off with Loki running into Mobius 1.0. So it's like, so his first decision is to find Sylvie. Her first decision is to go to McDonald's. I don't think so. I think episode 2, we are going to see what played out after it happened, after she pushed Loki out. So I think we're going to get a lot of Sylvie in there, but I think we're also going to get a lot more Obi as well. But I think primarily Sylvie. I think we're going to see it through her eyes. And then episode 3 is going to bring them together and start battling the problems that be.
You might be right. Okay. I'm starting to like your idea. It's going to be a Sylvie heavy episode 2. Okay, well we'll see. I actually like that. That makes sense. And with that, I think we covered episode 1. We threw out some theories. We kind of some speculations. We talked about the episode and how it kind of played and unfolded. And hey, I'm here for next week episode. So, my friend, I think we did a good job on closing this one out, and we can put that in the timeline of we call those things you bury and you unreveal later. Time capsules. Yeah, we put this one in time capsule, and we'll review it later and stuff. And all you guys can get the opportunity to download this on your favorite streaming platform. You probably are if you're listening to this part of it already. I don't know what else to say, but I'll see you guys next week. We will be back, me, Lou, and Sam, the podcast princess. So.
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate the time, and thank you guys all for listening. If you are listening to us, screenshot it, tag us on social media, let us know what you think.
Yep, absolutely. Reach out to us on Instagram or any way you can get in contact with us. And until next time, Marvel Tribe, we'll see you later. I did the salute like they can see me salute.